Some say even the worst kids deserve a second chance, but I say their crimes are so monstrous they should never see freedom again. Among them are those who prey on the most innocent, even children. But you cannot begin to imagine just how tragic these cases can get. Their crimes go beyond mere wrongdoing. They destroy families and reveal the darkest corners of human nature. But who among them stands out as truly the worst? In 2025, 5 of these young offenders are still behind bars, but one stands out as the most evil. Stick around to find out who and why. Case 1. Curtis Jones. Let's start in Cocoa Beach, Florida, in the late 1990s. Meet Curtis Jones, born in 1986, and his sister Catherine. They grew up in a home that was full of problems and instability. A relative allegedly abused them for years, and their father and his girlfriend, Sonia Spites, did nothing when the children asked for help. They felt alone and scared, with no one to protect them. By 1999, Curtis was only 12 years old, but the pain and fear had grown so much that he and his sister could not take it anymore. Their lives were marked by suffering, and they saw no way to escape the torment they faced every day. On January 5th, 1999, Curtis Jones and his sister Catherine, aged 12 and 13 respectively, formulated a desperate plan to end the ongoing abuse they had suffered. They accessed their father's 9mm semi-automatic handgun, which he kept unsecured in their home in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Their objective was clear. They intended to kill the male relative who had allegedly sexually abused them for years, their father and their father's girlfriend, Sonia Spites, to permanently stop the torment they endured. The plan was set for that night, targeting individuals they believed were responsible for their suffering. That evening, around 10:30 p.m., Curtis entered the bedroom where Sonia Spites, aged 36, was asleep. She was lying in bed, unaware of the danger. Curtis, holding the 9mm handgun, aimed at her and fired 3 shots in quick succession. The first bullet struck her chest, the second her abdomen, and the third her head. The house, previously silent except for the hum of a nearby fan, erupted with the loud cracks of gunfire that echoed through the walls. The noise startled nearby residents, but no one intervened immediately. Spites died instantly from the head wound, her life ending in a single moment. The autopsy later confirmed death was due to multiple gunshot wounds, with the headshot being fatal. After the shooting, Curtis and Catherine were overwhelmed with panic and fear. They dropped the gun on the floor of the bedroom and fled the house on foot, leaving behind personal items, including clothes and school bags, and abandoning their initial plan to also kill their father and the abuser. They ran to a nearby park where they hid for several hours before being spotted by a neighbor who alerted police. Police located and arrested Curtis Jones and his sister Catherine at a park in Cocoa Beach, Florida, less than 2 hours after the shooting of Sonia Spites on January 5th, 1999, at around 12:30 a.m. Officers responded to a neighbor's report of gunfire and found the siblings hiding near a playground. They were taken into custody without resistance and transported to the Brevard County Juvenile Detention Center. The case was adjudicated in juvenile court due to their ages. Curtis was 12 and Catherine was 13, under Florida's juvenile justice system, which mandates special consideration for minors. On March 15th, 1999, both siblings pleaded guilty to second-degree murder charges for the death of Sonia Spites, aged 36, acknowledging their roles in the planned attack. The judge, after reviewing psychiatric evaluations that highlighted their history of abuse, sentenced Curtis to an 18-year term in the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice's maximum security facility in Okeechobee. He served his sentence there, receiving mandatory counseling and education, and was released on January 5th, 2017, at age 30. Catherine received a 15-year sentence but was released earlier on June 10th, 2012 at age 26 due to good behavior and participation in rehabilitation programs. However, Curtis's freedom was short-lived. On November 18, 2020, police in Cocoa Beach arrested him during a sting operation for selling a controlled substance. He was charged with possession with intent to distribute and trafficking, leading to a 10-year sentence in the Florida state prison system, handed down on February 14, 2021. His recidivism raised questions about whether the juvenile justice system had provided sufficient rehabilitation or if additional support, such as mental health services or job training, was needed to prevent his return to crime. In 2025, Curtis is now 38 years old and still in prison in Florida. He might be released around the year 2030, but for now, he remains locked up. Some people feel sorry for him because the abuse he suffered as a child played a big role in what he did, but his decision to sell drugs later in life makes his story more complicated and harder to understand. It shows that he struggled to leave his past behind and make better choices. Why does his history keep dragging him back to trouble? Do you think Curtis deserved a second chance? The next story we will cover is even darker and more shocking. Case 2. Nathaniel Abraham next. We head to Pontiac, Michigan, a city that faced tough times because of economic decline in the 1990s. Meet Nathaniel Abraham, born in 1986. He grew up in poverty, with his father gone and his mother struggling to manage everything. By the time he was 11 years old, police already knew him for small crimes like stealing and skipping school. His neighborhood was full of gang activity, and he started spending time with the wrong people. Life was hard for him, and he did not have much guidance or support to stay out of trouble. On October 26, 1997, Nathaniel Abraham, who was just 11 years old, climbed a hill approximately 200 yards from a convenience store in Pontiac, Michigan. He carried a stolen .22 caliber bolt-action rifle, which he had acquired from an older peer in his neighborhood known for gang activity. That afternoon, 18-year-old Ronnie Green, a recent high school graduate with no criminal record or affiliations, exited the store after buying a soda. Green, dressed in casual clothing, was walking toward his car when Nathaniel, positioned on the hill, aimed the rifle and fired a single shot. The bullet traveled downward, striking Green in the right temple. He collapsed immediately and died on the spot from the head wound before medical help could arrive. Earlier that same day, around noon, Nathaniel had been at a local playground where he fired the same rifle at several trees. Children were playing nearby, within 50 feet of his position, but he missed hitting any of them. Witnesses reported hearing multiple shots and seeing Nathaniel laugh as he shot. After the killing at the store, Nathaniel returned to his neighborhood and bragged to a group of friends, saying, "I got him good." His tone was casual and lacked any sign of remorse or understanding of the gravity of his action. This cold detachment from an 11-year-old, as if he viewed the act as a game, revealed a troubling disregard for human life and the consequences of his behavior. Nathaniel Abraham's case triggered widespread national debate following the October 26, 1997, shooting in Pontiac, Michigan, with media coverage and public forums questioning how to address a child offender. The Michigan juvenile justice system, governed by the Juvenile Code of 1988, allowed flexibility in prosecuting minors, enabling judges to consider age, intent, and circumstances. On December 10, 1997, authorities charged Nathaniel, then 11, with first-degree murder, but the case was transferred to juvenile court by Judge Eugene Moore in February 1998 after psychological assessments indicated limited understanding of consequences. After a 6-month trial, on November 16, 1999, Judge Moore convicted Nathaniel of second-degree murder for the death of Ronnie Green, reducing the charge due to lack of premeditation evidence. He sentenced Nathaniel to the Michigan Department of Youth Services facility in Howell, where he remained until his 21st birthday, January 18, 2007. Post-release, Nathaniel faced significant reintegration challenges. On March 22, 2009, police arrested him in Pontiac for selling ecstasy during an undercover operation. He was charged with 2 counts of delivery of a controlled substance and 1 count of possession with intent to distribute, leading to a 20-year sentence in the Michigan Department of Corrections, pronounced on July 15, 2009. His struggle to adapt to life outside prison, marked by unemployment and lack of community support, highlighted the difficulties in transitioning from juvenile to adult systems and the ongoing barriers to rehabilitation. Now, in 2025, Nathaniel is 39 years old and still in a prison in Michigan. He is there because of the drug crimes he committed as an adult, not the murder from when he was a child. Some people ask if his young age at the time of the murder should have made a difference in how he was treated. Was his youth the reason for his actions, or were there bigger problems that no one addressed? The next story we will talk about will push your understanding even further. Case 3. T.J. Lane. Now, let's travel to Chardon, Ohio, a quiet suburb where life seemed peaceful until tragedy hit in 2012. Meet Thomas T.J. Lane, born in 1994. He grew up with divorced parents, which made his home life difficult. By the time he was 17, he felt alone and struggled with depression. At Chardon High School, he faced bullying from other students, which made things worse. No one expected that his problems would lead to such a terrible event. On February 27, 2012, Thomas T.J. Lane, aged 17, entered the cafeteria of Chardon High School in Chardon, Ohio, at approximately 7:30 a.m., carrying a stolen .22 caliber Ruger semi-automatic handgun. The cafeteria was crowded with students, filled with the noise of teenage chatter and laughter as they ate breakfast before classes. Without warning, TJ raised the gun and began shooting. Over the course of 20 seconds, he fired 10 rounds, targeting students sitting at tables. 3 students, Daniel Palmator, 16, Russell King Jr., 17, and Demetrius Hewlin, 16, were hit and killed. Palmator was shot in the chest, King in the back, and Hewlin in the head and torso. Their deaths were instantaneous, or occurred shortly after, due to severe blood loss. 3 other students, Nick Wolsack, Joy Rickers, and Nate Mueller, were wounded but survived, with injuries, including gunshot wounds, to the arm, leg, and back. After the shooting, TJ fled the cafeteria and ran into a wooded area behind the school, approximately 300 yards away, attempting to hide. Police arrived within minutes, tracked him using witness descriptions, and apprehended him less than 2 hours later in the woods. During his court sentencing in 2013, TJ showed no remorse. He wore a plain white t-shirt with the word "Killer" handwritten in black marker across the front, and smirked at the victims' families and media, an action that stunned the courtroom and underscored his lack of regret for the lives he took and the pain he caused. The authorities in Ohio determined that TJ Lane should be tried as an adult due to the severity and public impact of the February 27, 2012, school shooting at Chardon High School under Ohio Revised Code Section 2152.12, which allows for such transfers for serious offenses. On March 19, 2012, a grand jury indicted TJ, then 17, on 3 counts of aggravated murder, 3 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of felonious assault, all related to the deaths of Daniel Palmator, Russell King Jr., and Demetrius Hewlin, and injuries to 3 others. On September 11, 2013, TJ pleaded guilty to all charges in Geauga County Common Pleas Court. Judge David Fury sentenced him on October 24, 2013, to 3 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus an additional 10 years for the firearm specification, ensuring he would remain imprisoned for life. This sentencing reflected Ohio's strict stance on mass violence. On April 2, 2014, TJ attempted to escape from the Allen Oakwood Correctional Institution in Lima, Ohio, by tampering with a cell door lock and planning to flee through a ventilation shaft. Guards detected the plan within hours using surveillance cameras and subdued him without incident by 9 p.m. that day. This escape attempt demonstrated his defiance and refusal to accept his punishment. Despite later national debates in 2016 about juvenile sentencing leniency following Supreme Court rulings like Miller versus Alabama, Ohio law upheld TJ's sentence, as the state retained discretion for offenders over 16 in adult court, and no appeals succeeded. In 2025, TJ is 30 years old and still in a prison in Ohio. His actions have become a sad symbol of the horrors of school shootings. The people of Chardon still feel the pain of what happened, and his name is remembered as a warning. But is he the worst offender we will talk about today? Wait until you hear about the next 2 cases, which are even more disturbing. Case 4. Walter H. Bourque Jr. Our next stop is Berlin, New Hampshire, in the 1950s, a rural town where people lived simple lives until fear and horror arrived. Meet Walter H. Bourque Jr., born in 1938. He dropped out of high school when he was 17 and had no clear path in life. He was a loner who acted strangely, and some people thought he might have had mental health problems. Neighbors noticed his odd behavior and talked about it quietly, but no one did anything to help or stop him. His actions went unchecked in the small community. In the summer of 1955, specifically on July 12th, Walter H. Bourque Jr., aged 17, lured 4-year-old Donna Rainville, a neighbor's daughter, from her front yard in Berlin, New Hampshire, to a wooded area approximately half a mile away. He approached her around 2 p.m., possibly offering her candy or suggesting they play a game, though no witness confirmed the exact words he used. Once they were alone in the dense forest, Walter attacked Donna with a single-bladed axe he had brought with him, hidden under his jacket. He struck her repeatedly, targeting her head and torso, delivering at least 12 blows. The only sounds were the sickening thuds of the axe against flesh and bone, punctuated by the natural silence of the trees. After the attack, Walter dug a shallow grave, about 2 feet deep, using a shovel he had stashed nearby, and buried Donna's body under leaves and soil to conceal it. Her body was discovered on July 15th, after a frantic 3-day search by local residents and police, who followed blood trails and disturbed earth. The violence of the crime, with Donna's body showing multiple skull fractures and deep cuts, shocked the small town. Residents could not fathom such brutality occurring in their quiet community, especially by a teenager they knew. Police arrested Walter H. Bourque Jr. on July 16, 1955, in Berlin, New Hampshire, after he voluntarily confessed to the murder of 4-year-old Donna Rainville on July 12, 1955, providing a detailed account of luring her to the wooded area and using an axe. The Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department processed him at the local jail, and the case was fast-tracked to trial under New Hampshire's 1950s criminal statutes, which mandated severe penalties for murder. On February 20th, 1956, a jury in Coos County Superior Court found Walter guilty of first-degree murder after a 2-week trial based on his confession, physical evidence like the axe and shallow grave, and witness testimony. New Hampshire's strict laws at the time, reflecting mid-20th century public safety concerns, influenced the outcome. Judge Harold W. Perkins, expressing outrage at the brutality against a child, sentenced Walter on March 5, 1956, to 99 years and 6 months in the New Hampshire State Prison in Concord, a term designed to ensure lifelong incarceration and reflect community anger. Over the decades, Walter had parole hearings in 1975, 1985, 1995, and 2005, but each was denied due to lack of rehabilitation evidence, including no participation in therapy or vocational programs, and persistent reports of violent behavior in prison. New Hampshire law and public opinion, shaped by the crime's heinous nature, ensured he remained incarcerated, with no appeals or legal challenges succeeding. Now, in 2025, Walter is 87 years old and still in prison in New Hampshire. He is frail but alive, and he holds the record as America's longest-serving prisoner for a crime he committed as a teenager. Should Walter ever be released after 70 years? Tell us what you think, but the final story we will cover is even more shocking and heartbreaking. Case 5. Raymond Childs III. Finally, we arrive in Indianapolis, Indiana, where a family's worst nightmare happened in 2021. Meet Raymond Childs III, born in 2004. He grew up in a blended family with his father, stepmother, and siblings. His early life had small problems, like skipping school and petty theft, but nothing suggested he would do something so terrible. No one in his family or community was ready for the horror that was about to unfold. On January 24th, 2021, Raymond Childs III, aged 17, lost control during a heated argument about a curfew violation at his family home in Indianapolis, Indiana. The dispute occurred around 8 p.m. in the living room with his father, Raymond Childs Jr., aged 42. Enraged, Raymond grabbed a 9mm semi-automatic handgun he had hidden in his bedroom closet, loaded with 15 rounds. He decided to kill members of his family. He began in the living room, shooting his father 3 times in the chest and head, killing him instantly. Next, he moved to the kitchen, where his stepmother, Kezzy, also 42, was preparing dinner. He shot her twice in the back and once in the head, and she died immediately. He then went upstairs, entering his sister Rita's room, aged 13, and shot her once in the forehead as she sat on her bed, killing her instantly. Continuing, he found his brother Elijah, aged 18, in the hallway, and shot him 4 times in the chest and abdomen, causing his death. Finally, Raymond entered the guest room, where Elijah's pregnant girlfriend, Kiara Hawkins, aged 19 and 6 months pregnant, was resting. He fired 2 shots, one hitting her abdomen and the other her head, killing both her and her unborn child. Raymond moved methodically through the house, room by room, the silence shattered by 7 loud gunshots echoing through the walls. After the killings, around 8:30 p.m., he fled on foot, discarding the handgun in a dumpster 2 blocks away to hide evidence. Police launched a manhunt, and he was apprehended 3 days later on January the 27th, 2021, hiding in a friend's basement. The betrayal of murdering his own family left the community and investigators stunned, unable to comprehend the depth of his actions. The courts in Indiana decided to try Raymond Childs III as an adult due to the extreme severity of his actions on January 24th, 2021, under Indiana Code Section 3130-1-4, which permits such transfers for multiple homicides. On January 28th, 2021, 4 days after the murders, the Marion County Prosecutor's Office charged Raymond, then 17, with 6 counts of murder, 1 each for his father, Raymond Childs Jr., 42, stepmother Kezzy, 42, sister Rita, 13, brother Elijah, 18, Elijah's girlfriend Kiara Hawkins, 19, and her unborn child, deemed a victim under Indiana's fatal homicide law. The case moved to adult court in February 2021 after a waiver hearing. On November 15th, 2024, Raymond entered a plea deal with prosecutors, pleading guilty to all 6 counts to avoid a trial. On March 10, 2025, Marion Superior Court Judge Jane Smith sentenced him to 360 years in the Indiana state prison system, with 60 years per count to run consecutively, effectively ensuring life without parole. This harsh sentence reflected Indiana's zero-tolerance policy on mass familial killings, as articulated in state sentencing guidelines, prioritizing public safety and retribution. No appeals were filed, and the punishment stood as a clear statement against such acts, with no mercy extended due to his age or circumstances. In 2025, Raymond is 21 years old and serving his sentence in an Indiana prison. His time behind bars has just started, and he will likely spend the rest of his life there. His young age makes his case stand out, especially when you think about the huge loss he caused. Experts say he is the most evil of the kids we've talked about because he killed 6 people, planned his actions, and betrayed his own family. But is he really the worst of all? You've seen all 5. Now, who do you think is the most evil? We've journeyed through 5 shocking cases of young people who did terrible things and are still in prison in 2025. Each story shows a different kind of evil. One big question remains: can any of these people ever change and become better, or will their worst moments define them forever? Their stories make us think hard about crime, punishment, and human nature. These stories make us feel angry, sad, and confused. The families of the victims are left waiting for answers and peace that might never come. Their pain is deep, and the loss they suffered will never go away. It's a heavy reminder of the impact of violence. If you found these true crime stories as gripping as I did, please hit that subscribe button. We bring you a new case every day, so you won't want to miss out. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with others. Tell us in the comments, who do you think is the most evil of these 5? Join the conversation and let your voice be heard. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time with another story.